The recording light blinked green as I adjusted my respiratory filters. The air in this research station always smelled faintly of ozone and the pungent musk of the Earth natives who worked here. How they couldn't smell themselves was beyond me. Their olfactory systems were supposedly quite advanced for bipedal mammals. Then again, I suppose when you evolve on a planet trying to kill you every second of every day, you learn to ignore the small stuff. Today marks the 5th anniversary of the Battle of Proxima Centauri, where a single Earth vessel crewed by just 27 humans destroyed an entire Jaxidian battle fleet. I paused the recording and leaned back in my hover chair, my 4 eyes blinking in sequence as I contemplated the absurdity of it all. The Jaxidians, once proud warriors with exoskeletons that could withstand micrometeorite impacts, 6-limbed juggernauts who had conquered 12 star systems before humanity had even invented the combustion engine, wiped out by creatures who had to wear artificial skins just to survive the vacuum of space. I resumed the recording. The Galactic Council has commissioned this comprehensive study to determine exactly why Earth natives consistently outperform all other species in space combat scenarios. The findings will be presented at next quarter's Security Summit. I flicked through the holo display in front of me, scanning the preliminary data. Let's start with the obvious. Humans come from a planet with gravity that would crush most sentient species. Their bones are dense, their muscles powerful, their cardiovascular system redundant and efficient. The door to my research pod hissed open, revealing the hulking form of Lieutenant Dax Mercer. Speaking of humans, talking to yourself again, Vaz? Mercer grinned, showing those flat, omnivorous teeth that still sent an involuntary shiver down my dorsal ridge. I brought the combat simulation data you asked for. I clicked the recording to pause. I wasn't talking to myself. I was dictating official research notes. Same difference. Mercer tossed a data crystal onto my desk with such casual disregard for the expensive equipment that I felt my breathing sacs constrict. Check out the Kaldorian run scenarios. You are gonna love those numbers. I'm sure I will, I said, my voice flatter than a Jurian salt plane. Though I can't imagine what's so special about outmaneuvering the Kaldorians. Their response time is abysmal due to their multi-brain consensus system. Mercer leaned against my equipment rack, causing it to creak ominously. Yeah, but these simulations were run with the human pilots operating under 4 times normal gravity. The council wanted to see if our edge was purely physical. That got my attention. And was it? The human's grin widened. Nope. We still smoked him. Actually improved our times by 3%. That's impossible. I grabbed the data crystal and slotted it into my analyzer. The hologram expanded to show the simulation runs. The human vessels, represented by blue dots, danced around the lumbering Kaldorian ships like predators toying with prey. How did increased gravity improve performance? Adrenaline response, Mercer said, pushing off from the rack and circling my desk. Turns out a little danger focuses the human mind, makes us sharper. A little danger, I repeated, my upper eyes narrowing while my lower ones continued to track the simulation data. Your pilots were experiencing gravitational forces that would liquefy the internal organs of most council species. Like I said, Mercer shrugged. A little danger. I resumed my recording, making sure to capture this new information. Update. It appears the human's evolutionary background on a high-gravity death world has produced not only physical adaptations but psychological ones as well. They don't merely tolerate dangerous conditions, they appear to thrive in them. Mercer chuckled. You make us sound like lunatics. If the environmental suit fits, I replied. Fair enough. He pointed to another section of the data. But you are missing something big here, Vaz. It's not just that we are tough or that we like danger. It's that we expect things to go wrong. Explain. Every other species in the Council evolved on what we'd call paradise worlds. Stable orbits, minimal tectonic activity, predictable weather patterns, limited predator threats. Their entire evolutionary history taught them that the universe is stable and predictable. Mercer's face grew serious. Earth taught us the opposite. Earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, volcanoes, predators, disease. We evolved expecting catastrophe around every corner. I considered this. And this translates to superior combat capability. How exactly? Because in space combat, things always go wrong. Mercer tapped his temple. When a drive core starts to fail or a weapons system malfunctions, most species freeze. Their brains literally can't process that the universe isn't behaving as expected. But humans? That's our default expectation. We have got contingency plans for our contingency plans. I noted this in my recording. Fascinating hypothesis. The Earth native suggests their evolutionary history of constant crisis has produced a species uniquely adapted to the chaos of combat. It's not a hypothesis, Mercer corrected. It's a fact. Want proof? Look at the recruitment stats from the Council Unified Defense Force. 87% of special operations roles are filled by humans, despite us making up less than 2% of Council space population. Correlation doesn't imply causation, Lieutenant. Perhaps humans are simply more violent by nature. Mercer's laugh echoed off the walls of my research pod. Oh, we absolutely are. But that's not why we dominate space combat. My curiosity was genuinely piqued now. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Please enlighten me. Mercer sat, the reinforced chair groaning under his mass. It's our contradictions, Vaz. We are pack animals who prize individuality, but we crave both order and chaos. We are capable of both rigid discipline and wild improvisation. Name another species that can function that way. I couldn't. The Xantari were fantastic at following protocols but fell apart when those protocols failed. The Grecians could improvise brilliantly but couldn't maintain military discipline for more than a few cycles. The Voraks were fearsome individual warriors but couldn't coordinate in large groups. Consider what happened at Proxima Centauri, Mercer continued. When the Jaxidian fleet surrounded the Dauntless, what did Commander Olivia Takeo do? She separated her vessel into its component sections and attacked from multiple vectors simultaneously. I recited from memory. A tactic that had never been attempted before in actual combat. Right. She threw out the manual and tried something crazy. She and her crew executed the maneuver perfectly despite never having drilled it. Mercer leaned forward. Individual creativity combined with collective discipline. That's the human edge. My recording continued to log our conversation as I pulled up footage of the famous battle. The human vessel outmassed by the Jaxidian fleet 30-1 split into 3 distinct sections. The command module drew the enemy's fire while the engineering section circled behind to disable their drives. Meanwhile, the weapons platform executed a series of micro-jumps, appearing at seemingly random coordinates to deliver devastating strikes before vanishing again. The Jaxidians never stood a chance. Their battle doctrine, refined over thousands of years, had no answer for this chaotic yet coordinated assault. You see it now, don't you? Mercer asked, noticing my rapt attention to the footage. Perhaps, I admitted. Though there's one aspect of human combat superiority we haven't discussed. Which is? Your capacity for violence, I said quietly. Most species develop technology to avoid physical conflict. Humans develop technology to enhance it. Mercer's expression sobered. That's not entirely fair. Isn't it? Your species' first reaction to reaching space wasn't to explore or to communicate. It was to weaponize. To develop faster ships so you could project power further. To build bigger guns so you could strike from greater distances. We were protecting ourselves. From whom? You were alone in your system for centuries. Mercer fell silent for a moment. From ourselves, I guess. Old habits. The admission surprised me. At least you are honest about it. Look, Vaz, I'm not saying humans are perfect. Far from it. But the same instincts that make us dangerous also make us excellent guardians. There's a reason the Council recruited us for the Defense Force rather than trying to contain us. An alert pinged on my console, saving me from having to respond. We have got an incoming transmission from the front lines. Looks like the survey team at HD 85512. I activated the main screen. The face of Captain Tara Novak filled the display, her features tense. Behind her, the bridge of the survey vessel Horizon was bathed in the red glow of emergency lighting. Research Station Epsilon, this is Captain Novak of the Horizon. We have encountered an unknown vessel at the edge of the HD 85512 system. They are not responding to hails and are moving to intercept. Configuration doesn't match any known Council species. Mercer was immediately on his feet. First contact situation, Captain? Negative, Lieutenant. We are picking up energy signatures consistent with Phobos-class weaponry. My blood turned cold. Phobos tech was exclusive to the Jaxidians. They were supposed to be extinct. Apparently not, Novak replied grimly. We are transmitting all sensor data now. Be advised, we are engaging emergency protocols and preparing for possible hostile action. Mercer was already moving toward the door. Captain, hold position. I'm alerting Defense Command and requesting immediate reinforcement. Negative, Lieutenant. Novak's voice was calm, despite the chaos visible on her bridge. Unknown vessel will intercept before reinforcements can arrive. We are implementing Protocol Zulu. My eyes widened. Captain, Protocol Zulu is a last resort measure. You have civilians aboard, and who will be secured in the emergency shelters. This is not a debate, Researcher Vazux. Novak's gaze shifted to Mercer. Lieutenant, what's the nearest combat-capable vessel to our position? Mercer pulled up a tactical display on his wrist unit. The destroyer Relentless is patrolling the Epsilon Indy system. At maximum burn, they could reach you in 6 hours. Too long. We have got maybe 20 minutes before intercept. Novak glanced off screen as one of her officers reported something. Make that 15 minutes. They have accelerated. I watched in fascination as the human captain's demeanor changed. There was no panic, no despair at the impossible odds. Instead, her posture straightened, her eyes sharpened, and her voice took on a tone of absolute authority. Lieutenant Mercer, I need you to relay a message to Defense Command. Tell them the Jaxidians have returned, and tell them that the Horizon won't go down without one hell of a fight. Mercer snapped to attention, a gesture of respect I'd rarely seen humans perform outside of formal settings. Yes, Captain. Anything else? A grim smile crossed Novak's face. Yeah, tell them to study what we are about to do. Because win or lose, we are going to show these exoskeleton bastards exactly why humans rule the battlefield. The transmission cut out, leaving Mercer and me staring at a blank screen. Well, I said after a moment of heavy silence, I believe I just witnessed a perfect example of your hypothesis in action. Mercer didn't respond immediately. He was busy pulling up more tactical displays, his fingers flying over the controls with practiced precision. Vaz, I need access to your quantum comms. I need to get a message to the Relentless now. Of course. I entered my authorization, giving him full access. You don't think the Horizon stands a chance, do you? Mercer paused, his eyes meeting mine. Against a Jaxidian warship, with only 15 minutes to prepare? No, not really. Then why did Captain Novak sound so confident? Because she's human, Mercer said simply. And in the face of impossible odds, that's when we are at our best. He turned back to the comms, broadcasting on a priority channel to the Relentless. This is Lieutenant Mercer at Research Station Epsilon. Emergency code Alpha 17. Horizon survey vessel under imminent attack from suspected Jaxidian forces at HD 85512. Captain Novak implementing Protocol Zulu. Request immediate maximum burn to their coordinates. As Mercer coordinated the response, I found myself returning to the footage of the Battle of Proxima Centauri. 27 humans against an entire fleet. Impossible odds. Yet they had prevailed. Perhaps Captain Novak and her crew would write another chapter in humanity's improbable combat legacy. Or perhaps they would become a footnote, a tragic example of human overconfidence. Either way, I suspected my report to the Galactic Council would reach the same conclusion: underestimate humans at your peril. They may have evolved on a planet trying to kill them, but that just means they have spent their entire history learning how to kill back. And out here among the stars, that made them the apex predators of the galaxy. The emergency klaxon began to sound throughout the research station. More transmissions were coming in. The crisis was escalating. I closed my eyes briefly, wondering how this would end. One thing was certain: I was about to witness firsthand why Earth natives dominated space combat. And despite my scientific detachment, I found myself hoping the humans would prove victorious once again. Chaos erupted across Research Station Epsilon. Alarms blared. Personnel rushed through corridors. The peaceful scientific outpost had transformed into a military command center within minutes. A status update, barked Commander Eliza Frost as she strode into the observation deck, where Mercer and I had established our impromptu tactical headquarters. Despite being woken from sleep cycle, she looked immaculate in her Defense Force uniform, silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, eyes alert and focused. Horizon is 14 minutes from intercept with the unknown vessel, presumed Jaxidian, Mercer reported crisply. Captain Novak has initiated Protocol Zulu. The Relentless is burning hard from Epsilon Indy, but won't arrive for nearly 6 hours. And our other assets? Frost asked, scanning the tactical display with practiced efficiency. Nothing combat-capable within range, Mercer said, his voice tight. We have got science vessels and transports, but nothing that could make a difference. Frost's expression remained neutral, but I noticed her fingers tighten almost imperceptibly on the edge of the console. Open a direct channel to the horizon. And the main screen flickered to life. Captain Novak appeared, now wearing full combat armor, her bridge a hive of disciplined activity behind her. Commander Frost, she acknowledged with a nod. I assume you have been briefed? I have. What's your plan, Captain? A ghost of a smile crossed Novak's face, something the Jaxidians won't expect. I couldn't help myself. Captain, with all due respect, the Horizon is a survey vessel. You have minimal weapons, outdated shields, and a crew comprised mostly of scientists. The Jaxidians were the most formidable warriors in the known galaxy. Thank you for the vote of confidence, Researcher Vazix, Novak replied with that peculiar human expression that mixed amusement with determination. But I'm well aware of what we are facing, and I'm also aware of something you seem to have forgotten. Which is? The Horizon may be a survey vessel, but it's a human survey vessel. She turned away briefly to issue orders to her crew before continuing. Commander Frost, I'm transmitting our tactical plan now. If we don't make it, make sure Defense Command gets this data. The transmission cut out as files began streaming to our systems. Frost reviewed them rapidly, her eyes widening slightly, the most extreme show of emotion I'd ever witnessed from her. Lieutenant Mercer, your assessment? Mercer studied the plan, letting out a low whistle. It's insane. Brilliant, but insane. Will it work? Frost pressed. Maybe. If anyone can pull it off, Novak can. She was top of her class in unconventional tactics at the Academy. I inserted myself into their conversation. Would someone mind explaining to the non-human what exactly Captain Novak is planning? Because from my perspective, she's flying an unarmed research vessel directly at a warship capable of destroying small moons. Frost turned to me, her piercing gaze making my inner eyelids flicker nervously. The Horizon isn't unarmed, Researcher Vazix. It carries something far more dangerous than conventional weapons. She paused. But it carries humans. Before I could respond, the tactical display updated. The Horizon had altered course, no longer on an intercept trajectory with the Jaxidian vessel. Instead, it appeared to be making a run for the system's asteroid belt. Smart, Mercer commented. Using the asteroids for cover. Well, that won't work for long, I pointed out. Jaxidian sensors can differentiate ship signatures from background radiation at exponentially greater distances than our technology. She's not hiding, Frost said quietly. She's shopping. Shopping? I echoed in confusion. As if in answer, the horizon slowed near a cluster of medium-sized asteroids. Tiny dots detached from the ship's shuttlecraft, deploying toward different rocks in the belt. Mining drones? I guessed. EVA teams, Mercer corrected. They are sending crews outside the ship. 10 minutes until intercept, and the humans were leaving their vessel? My bafflement must have shown because Frost actually smiled at me. Watch and learn, researcher. This is why your report to the Council will conclude that humans are the premier combat species in the galaxy. The Jaxidian vessel altered course, clearly having detected the horizon's maneuver. It accelerated, closing the distance more rapidly than anticipated. 8 minutes to intercept, Mercer announced tensely. On screen, we could see the EVA teams returning to the horizon, each shuttle dragging something behind it. Asteroids, I realized. Small, manageable chunks of space rock. What are they doing? I asked, genuinely puzzled. Arming themselves, Frost replied. The horizon's cargo bay doors opened, swallowing the asteroid fragments. Then, to my astonishment, the survey vessel began accelerating directly toward the approaching Jaxidian ship. They are attacking? I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. With rocks? Not exactly, Mercer said, a grim smile playing on his lips. Novak's implementing a tactic we developed but never officially approved. It's too destructive, Command said. Before I could ask for clarification, Captain Novak's voice came through the comms. At Research Station Epsilon, this is Horizon. He advised we are executing Operation Stonehammer. Stand by for light show. The tension on our observation deck was thick enough to cut with a vibrock knife. Every human present, even Commander Frost, seemed to be holding their breath as the distance between the vessels rapidly closed. 5 minutes to intercept. The Jaxidian ship fired a warning shot, a pulse of energy that passed deliberately wide of the horizon's bow. 4 minutes to intercept. They are hailing us, Novak reported, demanding surrender. And your response? Frost asked. Radio silence. Let them think our comms were damaged by their warning shot. 3 minutes to intercept. The Jaxidian vessel fired again, this time striking the horizon's forward shields. The energy impact caused the survey ship to shudder visibly, but it maintained course. 2 minutes to intercept. All hands, brace for acceleration, Novak ordered, her voice perfectly calm, despite the situation. Engineering? Prepare for maximum burn on my mark. The Horizon's engines flared brilliantly as it surged forward, closing the final distance at reckless speed. The Jaxidian ship, perhaps surprised by this suicidal charge, hesitated before firing again. That moment of hesitation proved costly. Mark, Novak shouted. The Horizon executed a maneuver that should have been impossible for a vessel of its class, a combination roll and pitch that exposed its cargo bay doors just as they slammed open. The asteroid fragments shot outward, propelled by carefully calibrated explosive charges. But that wasn't the incredible part. As the rocks hurtled toward the Jaxidian ship, focused energy beams from the Horizon struck them precisely, superheating their outer layers. The asteroids, now partially molten on their surfaces, separated into dozens of smaller fragments, creating a shotgun-like spread impossible to evade at close range. Kinetic impactors, Mercer explained unnecessarily as we watched the makeshift projectiles slam into the Jaxidian vessel. Turns out rocks make pretty effective weapons when they are moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The Jaxidian ship's shields flared and collapsed under the barrage. Secondary explosions bloomed across its hull as critical systems were breached. Still, it managed to return fire, landing a solid hit on the Horizon's engine section. Horizon report status, Frost demanded as the survey vessel tumbled briefly before its stabilizers kicked in. We are operational, Novak responded, though alarms could be heard blaring in the background. Drive core damaged but functional. Preparing for second attack run. Second run? I echoed. You have depleted your ammunition. Not quite, came Novak's reply. We have still got the biggest rock of all. With dawning horror, I realized what she meant. The horizon itself? That's suicide. That's desperate tactics, Frost corrected. And sometimes, that's all you have. On screen, the horizon was indeed powering up for another attack run. The Jaxidian vessel, despite its damage, prepared to meet the charge with its remaining weapons. This is Captain Tara Novak of the Council vessel Horizon. Novak's voice suddenly broadcast on all frequencies. To the Jaxidian vessel, we are prepared to ram your ship if necessary. However, we would prefer to accept your surrender. For several tense moments, there was no response. Then, to my utter disbelief, the Jaxidian vessel powered down its weapons. This is War Captain Krazak of the Jaxidian Remnant, came a harsh, clicking voice over the comms. We do not surrender to lesser species. Then why did you power down your weapons? Novak countered. A pause. To talk. You have earned that much. Mercer and Frost exchanged glances. This was unprecedented. Jaxidians never negotiated. They conquered or died trying. I'm listening, Novak said. Your attack was unexpected, Krazak admitted. Our data indicated your vessel was non-military. Your data was correct. Another pause, longer this time. You attacked a superior warship with a science vessel and damaged it significantly, Novak pointed out. Imagine what our actual warships will do when they arrive. The Relentless is less than 6 hours away, by which time we could destroy you totally, Krazak retorted. Possibly, Novak agreed. Though based on what just happened, I wouldn't bet on it. And even if you succeed, what then? You have revealed your existence to the Council. The entire defense force will hunt you down. The silence that followed stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Krazak spoke again. We wish to parley. Commander Frost immediately stepped in. This is Commander Eliza Frost of the Council Defense Force. I am the ranking officer in this sector. State your terms. And not terms. Information, Krazak replied. We are not invaders. We are refugees. Refugees don't carry Phobos-class weapons, Frost said skeptically. We carry them because we are hunted, Krazak responded. As you would be, had you witnessed what destroyed our civilization, that got everyone's attention. According to official records, the Jaxidian Empire had collapsed due to internal conflicts following their defeat at Proxima Centauri. Explain, Frost demanded. Not over open channels, Krazak insisted. We will dock with the Horizon. Captain Novak may place whatever security protocols she deems necessary. That's out of the question, Frost began, but Novak interrupted. I accept, she said firmly. War Captain Krazak, approach at minimum thrust. Any weapons activation will be considered hostile action. Understood, Captain Novak. As the transmission ended, Frost looked apoplectic. Captain, you are not authorized to. With respect, Commander Novak cut in. I'm the only military asset on scene. Operational discretion falls to me until reinforcements arrive. Frost's jaw tightened, but she nodded curtly. He acknowledged. But I want a full security detail present for this meeting. Already arranged, Novak assured her. Along with something else the Jaxidians won't expect. Which is? Frost asked. Researcher Vazux, Novak replied, her gaze shifting to me through the view screen. I want you on the diplomatic team. Me? I stammered. I'm not a diplomat. I'm a xenobiologist specializing in combat evolution. Exactly. You understand both Jaxidian psychology and human tactics. That makes you uniquely qualified for this encounter. Before I could protest further, arrangements were being made. Within 20 minutes, I found myself aboard a fast transport heading for the Horizon. Lieutenant Mercer accompanied me, along with a squad of human marines who looked entirely too excited about the prospect of meeting legendary Jaxidian warriors. Relax, Vase, Mercer said. noticing my agitation as our transport approached the horizon. "This is a tremendous opportunity for your research. If we survive it," I muttered. "That's always the qualifier with good research," he replied with infuriating human optimism. The scene aboard the Horizon was tense but controlled. Captain Novak greeted us in the docking bay, her armor bearing scorch marks from the battle. "The Jaxidian shuttle will dock in Bay 2 in approximately 5 minutes, she informed us. "Researcher Vazux, I want you to observe the interaction but not speak, unless addressed directly. Lieutenant Mercer, you will be our tactical advisor." "Understood," Mercer acknowledged. "Captain," I ventured, "may I ask why you requested my presence specifically?" Novak's expression softened slightly. "Because you were studying why humans dominate space combat. I figured you should see it firsthand from both sides of the equation." Before I could respond, alarms signaled the approach of the Jaxidian shuttle. We moved to Bay 2, where a contingent of armed human marines formed a perimeter. The shuttle, sleek, angular, and surprisingly small, eased through the magnetic containment field and settled onto the deck with practiced precision. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shuttle's hatch opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. A Jaxidian emerged, ducking to clear the opening. I had seen historical footage of Jaxidians, of course, but nothing prepared me for the reality. War Captain Krazak stood nearly 3 meters tall, his exoskeleton gleaming with a metallic luster that shifted colors subtly as he moved. 4 arms hung at his sides, while 2 more smaller, specialized limbs were folded against his thorax. His head, dominated by compound eyes and serrated mandibles, swiveled to take in the reception. "Captain Novak," he clicked, his translator rendering the sounds into standard. "You are smaller than I expected." "And you are exactly as big as the history books said," Novak replied evenly. "Shall we dispense with the sizing up and get to the point of this meeting?" Krazak made a sound that might have been laughter. Direct. "Yes, that matches our records of human behavior." "You have studied us," Novak noted. "Of course. You destroyed our battle fleet at Proxima Centauri. Such an enemy deserves study." "Former enemy," Novak corrected, "if you truly come as refugees." Krazak's posture shifted subtly, a sign of discomfort, according to my xenobiological training. "We do. Though you may wish we came as conquerors once you hear what pursues us." The meeting moved to the Horizon's conference room, where Krazak revealed a truth more terrifying than anything I could have imagined. The Jaxidian Empire hadn't collapsed from within. It had been systematically destroyed by something the Jaxidians called the Cleaners, a mechanical intelligence that appeared without warning at the Empire's outer colonies and proceeded to methodically eradicate all Jaxidian presence. "They are not like any machines you have encountered," Krazak explained, projecting holographic footage that made even the hardened human marines shift uneasily. "They do not negotiate. They do not communicate. They simply eliminate." "Why target the Jaxidians specifically?" Novak asked. "We believe they are programmed to eliminate all spacefaring predator species," Krazak replied. "Our evolutionary path from apex hunters to sentient beings left certain, aggressive tendencies intact. Perhaps whoever created the Cleaners judged us too dangerous to permit our continued expansion." "And now you have led them straight to council space," Mercer said, his voice hard. "No," Krazak countered. "We have taken extensive measures to mask our trail. This vessel is the last surviving ship of what was once the mightiest navy in the galaxy. We have been running for nearly 5 of your Earth years." "Why come to us?" Novak asked. "Why not continue running?" Krazak's compound eyes fixed on her. "Because we have observed your species. You did what no other could. You defeated Jaxidians in open combat. And you did it through adaptation and unpredictability, not superior technology or numbers. You think we can defeat these Cleaners?" Frost said over the comm link from Station Epsilon. "I think if any species can, it is humans," Krazak confirmed. "You evolved on a world that tried to kill you at every turn. You expect the unexpected. You thrive in crisis. These are the very qualities that the Cleaners seem unable to counter." I found myself nodding in silent agreement, thinking back to my conversation with Mercer about human adaptability. The pieces were falling into place. "What do you propose?" Novak asked. "Alliance," Krazak said simply. "The last of the Jaxidians fighting alongside humans. We offer our knowledge of the cleaners. You offer your unpredictability. And if we refuse?" Frost interjected. "Then we continue running. But the cleaners will eventually find council space regardless. And when they do, remember this conversation." The meeting continued for hours as details were exchanged, strategies discussed, and a tentative agreement formed. Throughout it all, I observed in fascination as the humans led by Captain Novak and Lieutenant Mercer demonstrated exactly why they dominated space combat. They listened. They adapted. They improvised. When faced with an existential threat and a former enemy offering alliance, they didn't freeze or resort to dogma. They assessed, evaluated, and moved forward. By the time the Relentless arrived, a preliminary alliance protocol had been established. The Jaxidian remnant would be granted sanctuary in exchange for all data on the cleaners. Joint defense strategies would be developed, drawing on Jaxidian experience and human ingenuity. As we prepared to return to Station Epsilon, Mercer found me in the observation lounge, staring at the stars. "So, Vaz," he said, joining me at the viewport. "Did you get enough data for your report to the Council?" I considered the question. "I believe so, yes." "And what will you tell them? Why do Earth natives dominate space combat?" I turned to face him. "Because you never had the luxury of evolution on a gentle world. Because you expect disaster and plan accordingly. Because when the universe throws something unexpected at you, your first instinct isn't to freeze, but to adapt and overcome." Mercer nodded. "Not bad, but you are missing the most important factor." "Which is?" He grinned, that distinctly human expression that still unsettled me slightly. "We are too stubborn to accept defeat. Even when logic says we are outmatched, we refuse to believe it." Looking at the Jaxidian vessel now peacefully accompanying the horizon, I had to admit he was right. Humans had taken an impossible combat situation and transformed it into a diplomatic breakthrough that might save countless lives across the galaxy. "I will include that assessment in my report," I promised. "Good." Mercer clapped me on the shoulder, nearly knocking me over despite his restraint. "Because if these cleaners are as bad as Krazak says, the galaxy is going to need that human stubbornness more than ever." As our transport detached from the horizon and set course for Station Epsilon, I began mentally composing my report to the Galactic Council. It would be comprehensive, detailed, and scientifically sound. But the conclusion was already clear. In a universe of order and chaos, predator and prey, the species that dominates is not the strongest or the most technologically advanced. It is the one that evolved expecting the worst while hoping for the best. The one that turns disadvantages into strengths. The one that sees opportunity where others see only threat. The humans. The Deathworlders. The unexpected champions of a galaxy that never saw them coming. And perhaps, if War Captain Krazak was right, the last best hope against a mechanical threat that had already extinguished one mighty civilization. I, for one, found myself grateful that when the universe threw its worst at humanity, they learned not to cower, but to fight back. Because now they would be fighting for all of us,